Hey, what's going on? You know who it is. You know what it is. All right, you guys, peep game. All right, man. Well, the NBA is basically still struggling and scrambling, trying to figure out how are they going to salvage this year's 2019-2020. While reports are coming out that they're going to open up certain parts of the country, certain states, but they're going to have to be some kind of guidelines they're going to have to follow. So basically, they're trying to figure out what they can do with the NBA. I've said this on several occasions, what the NBA should do. And they should consider doing this maybe on a permanent basis. I've said for the longest that the NBA should consider playing the NBA Finals every year in just a designated location, just for traveling purposes. I said they should consider it. What if you just did like the Super Bowl? You just played the whole festivities in just a designated city. Let's just say 1 year you could do it for 2 weeks in, you could do it for 2 weeks in DC, 2 weeks in Frisco. Because at the end of the day, they need to get one. It just takes too long to get it over with. To me, you should play a game every other day. You don't have to play no back-to-backs. I understand that. But you have these NBA Finals. Game one may start on Sunday, and then you don't play game two till Wednesday. Then it just goes on too long. The best thing to do for the NBA is at least consider that. And I know you have to take into account other teams that play in that respective city or whatever, but it can be done, and I think they can pull it off. I think if they do a trial run, if it fails, it fails. If it doesn't, then you consider doing that on a more permanent basis. Because me, myself, you don't need 3 and 4 days in between games. One thing these players constantly complain about is traveling. Well, if you celebrated the festivities for basically 2 weeks in that city where these dudes just stay put, they don't have to do no traveling, I think it would be better. But now, this is the problem that I have now. Now, it appears that the NBA apparently wants to vote, possibly, if they can't get games going on, immediately. I already told you that the NBA is going to have to shorten their season. They're going to have to shorten their playoffs run. They have to, and they should. But see, once again, this is where the problem lies. See, the NBA, to a certain degree, they have a script they like to follow because they really don't like upsets. And that's what they're worried about. They're worried about having hiccups in the finals. They do want certain teams to advance for rating purposes. It isn't like the National Football League where, hell, if anybody go to the Super Bowl, basically the same amount of people will watch it every year. Where the NBA, they're predicated off who the teams is, because basically they build their league by, basically the players showing people what the players look like. Where the NFL, you really don't see what these dudes look like because most of the time they have on a helmet. And basically after they make a play, then they may show some team roster picture so you can see what they look like, where the NBA and Major League Baseball, you clearly see what these dudes look like. So that's the difference. And that's why on certain teams, you have a certain player being promoted more as a star than the next player. And then when you look at numbers-wise, this guy on team whatever is actually just as good or putting up the numbers as this dude on the more popular team, because they go by like location. It's hard, and this is just This is just the honest to God truth. Based off the media market data perspective, star playing, it's kind of hard to promote them for universal, appeal. Because based off what city they play in, and that's unfortunate. And basically what I'm saying is, like, it's kind of hard to promote a dude that may play in a city like Charlotte versus a dude that may play in a place like, Miami or Los Angeles or New York. You understand what I'm saying? That's always been the case. Now, you have a guy like Giannis. Giannis is so good to where you can't deny his popularity. But a lot of times, once again, he still plays in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's media market is not as big per se, the Bay Area, Los Angeles, or Chicago. So that's the problem. You wonder if you could get the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Finals, will people watch it like they would a Golden State Warriors, Toronto Raptors Finals? Because like I said, the NBA is predicated on star power. And that's why certain stars want to play in certain markets. Why it's hard to get players to stay in certain markets, with the exception of guys like Tim Bradley, who pretty much played their whole career in Texas. So that's, that's the problem. But what the NBA is trying to do now, and I think this is a very bad idea. I think this idea is just it is just asking for trouble. Now the NBA is saying if they can't get a champion, on the court, or basically if they can't find a way to get players to play on the courts, they may vote for a champion. And I'm telling you right now, somehow, some way, they find a way to vote the Lakers the NBA champions. When I say all hell is going to break loose, all hell is going to break loose. And I'm going to tell you, the hatred for LeBron is going to be even more intense. And it will, to a certain degree, be justified, because they'll say, hey, LeBron didn't play for it. He didn't earn it. We don't know whether he would have beat the Bucks or the Clippers, so that is a bad idea. If there is no games, they just should be an NBA Finals. I've said this before. If they could somehow, some way find a way to get the season jump-started, reboot the season again, what they must do. The NBA has already lost money. It's better to just salvage some kind of season, at least to where you could get a little bit of money back, or at least try not to lose as much money as you already have. Basically, as I said before, I feel like the first round of the NBA playoffs should be best out of 3. Best out of 3. If one team win the first 2 games, then they automatically advance. And then I think for real, I think the first 2 rounds shouldn't be seven games. I think the first round should be best out of 3. Second round should be best out of 5. Then the Western Conference Finals should be basically, should be 7, and then the finals should be 7. And I feel like that's just the best way to get it done. People are going to complain about it and say, oh, well, if it had been a full 7 games, at the end of the day, you just going to have to accept whoever you root for. Your prospective team get bounced out, then that's them. And then I think to a certain degree, this is going to make every team play even more harder, because they know, hey, if we lose 2 games, if we lose back-to-back games, we done. And I think that's going to make every team inspired to play hard. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the first round, the women's basketball league, the WNBA, does something like this, has the best of 3, which, by the way, the WNBA, I don't even want to start on the WNBA. What kind of trouble they in, because the NBA loses a lot of money on the WNBA anyway. So, yeah, that's my thought, man. You just cannot have the NBA personnel. And how would they do this? Who would vote? Who would vote, and how would they tally up the votes? And how do you know that they might not rig this for us? And see, that's another thing. You're going to have people accused of vote tampering. And I mean, it's just, I don't think the NBA should even remotely consider going that direction. It's best to just play these games out. You're going to have to shorten the season. You're going to have to shorten. You already going to have to shorten the season. You're going to have to shorten the playoffs. That's just fact. Sometimes you have people that just outsmart themselves. Or the obvious answer is looking them right in the face and they just don't want to accept it. So that's what they need to do. This your boy Town Biz. I'm out.